All right, well, starting over. Hello, everyone. My name is Javier Villegas. I am from Buenos Aires, Argentina. And, well, I'm also part of the PaaS community since probably 10 years ago, something like that. Today, we're going to be talking about a new service called Azure SQL Database Managed Instance. So we're going to try to make some introduction with some live examples about this new service. It's as new as GA was announced yesterday during Ignite, right? So the service was in preview for multiple months until finally yesterday is live. A little bit about myself. I am DBA at Mediterranean Shipping Company. I'm involved with the SQL Server world since the first versions, 6, 6.5. My specialization is SQL administration, performance tuning, and high availability. I am a data platform MVP and also a foreign contributor. Since 2015, I guess, I started as a technical speaker on different events, in-person and online events, most of them related to the PaaS community, but also the NetConf, the GroupBy and the DataPlatformGeeks community. And I am an active member of the SQL Argentina PaaS group. Here you have my Twitter account, my LinkedIn, and my blog. So feel free to contact me for any question related to this presentation or something else you may want to discuss. All right, so why do we need to modernize by moving to the cloud, right? So this is what everybody is looking for, right? Increase productivity and decrease cost, right? These days, maintaining data center is complicated. Let's say hardware is a cost that we have to invest and then maintain, and the hosting solutions are also in some cases expensive. So in our case, if we want to modernize, what we need to do, we have the best option we have ahead is moving to the cloud, right? I am from the old school, right? As I mentioned earlier, I started with SQL Server 6, 6.5. So at the very beginning, this whole cloud thing was a kind of weird, right? Virtualization. Come on, I kind of didn't like it. But let me tell you that after seeing it in action, and all the services and the thing that the cloud is offering us, well, I would say that is a valuable resource. So we want to accelerate our growth. So what we need to do is just focus on the business in the growth without taking care of other things like infrastructure. So we have in the cloud, we have some sort of flavors, right? Platform or infrastructure as a service, right? So then we have to decide which one we may go. Platform as a service is, basically something similar to what we have on-prem, right? But in the cloud. That is a virtual machine running a certain version of OS, let's say Windows Server, then running SQL Server on-prem. And then we have to maintain all that infrastructure, meaning applying Windows patches, applying SQL patches, scheduling maintenance with downtimes, etc., etc., etc. Right? Let's say that if we need to keep taking care of that, well, this is the way to go, right? Infrastructure as a service. But as if we want to just focus on the business itself, on the growing itself, and avoid taking care or having worries about the infrastructure, the OS, etc., we should go to platform as a service, right? So in terms of SQL, in terms of relational databases, what are the offerings that Microsoft is giving us in Azure, right? Either infrastructure or platform as a service. As mentioned before, we can have Azure virtual machines running Windows servers and any version of SQL Server at the top of this, right? So that is, that requires our intervention to maintain the patching, right? And Microsoft is kind of assuring that we're going to have 3 nines for the SLA, right? It's a valid solution in my infrastructure. I'm using several VMs with running different versions of SQL Server, and I will say that is a service that is strong, mature, and something that everybody is kind of familiar because it's fairly the same than what we are doing right now in our data centers, right? On the other hand, Microsoft offers Azure SQL database, right? What is this Azure SQL database and what is the difference between this and SQL Server, right? Basically, it's a fully managed database, right? So Microsoft is providing us an endpoint in where, we have a SQL database. But there are some limitations or let's say characteristics about Azure SQL DB, right? Basically, we have only one database, right? So we cannot interact with other databases. Let's say that our, application works with 10 databases, right? We have tables. In one table, we have, in one database, we have tables containing HR data. In another one, we have operational. And then in another database, we have, let's say, accounting information. We cannot do joins between tables on different databases, right? That is one of the limitations. It's a, but, that's, to me, the main limitation that it has. But on the other hand, it provides us with GODR built in, right? So we don't need to worry about setting up availability groups, backups, these kind of things, right? Because it's a service, right? Microsoft offers several ways to migrate our databases to Azure SQL DB, right? There are services and applications that allow us to do this migration. Requires a lot of effort, right? But it's doable, right? We're going to see some examples later. But to me, let's say that the rule is that if I have an existing, let's start from the other branch. If we have the necessity of creating a brand new application, right, from scratch, right, we have the request. Okay, let's consider Azure SQL database as a start over, right? So if we need to start something new, okay, let's consider Azure SQL DB and, evaluate what it can do for us and, if possible, use it, right? Because, it has more SLA 449 and, is a mature product, right? But if we have an existing application, let's say legacy, or that is a core base application, maybe migrating to Azure SQL DB is not an option, right? So right now is something like, it's a space in between these two options, right? And to cover that space is what we have right now, Azure SQL Database Managed Instance. What is this? Also a fully managed service in the cloud, but is almost 100% compatible with SQL Server version of the relational engine, right? What we're going to have basically is an endpoint of SQL Server. We will be able to have all our databases. We will be able to run the same queries that we are running on-prem, right? But what we have, this is a service, right? We will cover some of the features and the characteristics within this presentation. But, it's a SQL Server in the cloud in where we don't have to worry about, let's say, the infrastructure at all. We don't need to pay attention to Windows, to apply patches, to reboot Windows, to apply patches to SQL. No. This is a fully managed service, right? And there are a couple of tiers and flavors that we can choose, but it's also include SQL Server agents, so we can schedule our tasks. It's like, grab our stuff that we have on-prem in our data centers and move it to the cloud, right? The good news is that it's almost 100% compatible with what we have online. So let's cover this again. What is managed instance, right? In the title, we have the word preview, which was up to yesterday, right? Now is GA, right? So it provides 100%, almost 100% compatibility with SQL Server on-premise, right? It runs in an Azure VNet, right? Which is in a way is like a private environment, right? In this VNet, we cannot have any other services, or let's say, Azure services running on it. So it's some sort of a private environment. And let's say Azure SQL DB, right? You can publish the endpoint to the web, right? So from any internet connection, you can connect to the port 1433 and connect to your Azure SQL DB, right? For managed instance, one of the requirements that they have at the very beginning is just to make it private. What's the reason? Why it's private? Because the idea is basically to extend our data center to the cloud, not just to provide a front end for the web, right? It's just have this extension of our data center. So how do we connect to managed instance if it is running a private VNet? Well, there are multiple ways of doing it, right? Within Azure, we have this site-to-site VPN options, right? There is an option that is also called VNet peering, right? So you can peer to that VNet in where managed instance is running an additional VNet, and over there you can install, workstations, other servers, etc., right? Another advantage that we have is that, let's say, if we have the necessity to move to the cloud quickly, right? The migration is extremely straightforward. How we do the migration? Basically, we take a backup of what we have on-prem and we move it to the cloud, right? And we restore it to the manage instance. Really easy, right? So backup and restore. We're gonna see it in the demo. You're gonna see is really amazing what we can do with this. And the best thing that managed instance provide us is all the benefit of platform as a service. Mm. So with managed instance, Microsoft kind of complete all the offering in terms of SQL Server or let's say relational database for Azure, right? We have what they call singleton, which is SQL Azure DB, right, to provide a single entity, relational entity to publish to the web our application. As I mentioned earlier, it's a good option when we have to develop a brand new application, right? Consider this. Then, how do this Azure SQL DB works? Well, basically, Microsoft have come up with this concept of DTU, right? This transactional unit that we can assign this amount of transactional units. So with Elastic Pool, we can create several Azure SQL DBs, right? And assign or schedule this DTU to go to one DB or another, right? This is just the part of Azure SQL DB. And with managed instance, we cover the rest, right? So now it has full presence in the platform as a service area, right? With a SQL Server running in the web. It's totally private, right? So there is no way to get in through the web. We can have some networking thing involved, but by default is really secure, right? Plus the fact that Microsoft always use Azure to put the new features that they are working on, right? Like for example, right now, threat detection, right? So we can easily enable threat detection on SQL Azure DB and managed instance, right? It's something that if the engine detects that it is a threat around some sort of problems, attack or everything, we're gonna get notified right away. Beside that, in the aspect of automatic query tuning, we have options in where yesterday I just made another presentation about automatic query tuning and adaptive query processing. All this was applied to Azure before it went transferred to the on-premise SQL Server, right? So they put it in the cloud. Everybody's able to use it. First of all, test it with certain, private options. Then it's GA in Azure, and when it's GA in Azure, then it is moved to the on-prem version of SQL Server, right? So all the part of automatic tuning is available in both Azure SQL DB and managed instance. Okay, we really need to focus on our business. So hardware, we don't need to pay attention because it's a service, right? And we can easily scale, right, in terms of memory, CPU, disk, right? Really easy from the Azure portal, right? Backups, right? We will see that the concept of backups and high availability in Azure managed instance, right, is something that we don't have to pay attention. Why is that? Because in managed instance, Microsoft provides by default, right, 3 replicas, right? So our databases that we create or we restore in that, we have 3 replicas in different Azure data centers, right? So by default, it's highly available, right? We don't need to create the window cluster and then create the availability group, take the backup of the database and provision in the AG. No, nothing of that is necessary. Right? It's everything built in. Also backups. Concept of backups are not longer needed in Azure Managed Instance, even though we can do a point-in-time restore, right? Also, since it is Azure, well, we have compliance with every single standard that Microsoft Azure provide, right? So those standards are also applied for our own, infrastructure or our own services. Updates, upgrades, patching, all built in, right? Monitoring, right? We will see that, we're going to have we will see a panel in the Azure portal that will help us to monitor performance and health of our managed instance. So earlier I said that is almost 100% compatible with the on-prem version of SQL Server. Let's start by seeing what we have, right? We can use the native option of backup restore, right? To do the migration, we take a backup and we restore it over there, right? With same commands, same T-SQL, etc. Log shipping, right, is fully compatible. In terms of programmability or T-SQL, right, we have global temp tables. We can do cross databases, queries, and transactions, something that we don't have in Azure SQL DB. CLR is also available. And something that I really like a lot is the possibility of having link servers, right? So within a managed instance, we can create a link server to our on-premise SQL in our own data center, right? And have access from there. Same thing like if we have two SQL servers on-prem and we create a link server from one to each other, right? This is exactly the same. We will see it in action later. In terms of security, right? TDE, always encrypt, row level security, SQL audit, all that is available. All the DMVs that we like and love and use every single day, at least the DBAs, are available in managed instance. Same as extended events. We were talking with Jason before starting about all the beauties with extended event. Well, also available in managed instance. Query store, something new from SQL Server 2016 and well, now 17 and on forward, right? Available there with the possibility also of automatic query tuning and adaptive query processing. SQL separation with all the benefit, right? Create a task, schedule it to run on a given schedule, right? DB mail to fire alerts, etc. Same as on-premise. Service broker, something that is, widely used in on-prem. Well, we also have it there. For the one who use CDC, change data capture, it's also available. And finally, transactional replication, right? We can have a managed instance using transactional replication. As a footnote, we have that it supports compatibility mode since SQL Server 2015 on forward. Right? What does it mean? We can take our databases from our SQL Server 2008 R2, right? Something that is still supported by Microsoft with the compatibility level 100, right? And restore it to managed instance and keep it in compatibility level 100, right? So we have all the compatibility levels since 2005 up to the latest one, right? 140, which is SQL Server 2017, right? And also 150, which is SQL Server 2019 or PNext, right? So if we have a database which relies on the legacy version of the cardinal estimator, right? Let's say compatibility level 110 or lower, we can, put those databases in an Azure SQL managed instance, keep the compatibility level in the same version and use it with no problem. As we do in on-prem, we can change the compatibility level to see how our workload behave with different CLs. Really, really useful, believe me. All right, so managed instance is available in 2 tiers, right? What Microsoft call general purpose and business critical. The one that was released as GA was general purpose, right? So since yesterday, general purpose is available for everyone, right? Business critical is still in preview. The difference between one and the other is the business critical use another kind of storage, right? Super fast SSD storage, so the latency is really minimal, right? And in terms of high availability, I know that there are some other options in business critical, but it's still preview. Both tiers guaranteed 4 nines for the SLA. Okay, going back a little bit to SQL Azure DB. How do we do a migration of our SQL databases to Azure SQL DB? Well, there are an application and a service, right? Data migration assistance, right, which basically perform an assessment to our database, right? And after several iterations, it's gonna provide us with all the changes that we may need to do to the database. And then when it's ready, when it is ready to be migrated to SQL Azure DB, right? It's just deployed, right? So this is kind of the way, right? It's interact, generate the migration workflow, and when it's ready, generate the backpack and deploy it to SQL Azure DB. Right? These are the services and applications that we can use to do these migrations. Data Migration Assistant, right? Which is the application that we can run on-prem to do all this assessment, and also Azure Database Migration Service. This is something that Microsoft has released it as a service recently. It's also available in the Azure portal, and it can evaluate and migrate our databases quickly to the cloud. So we spoke about migration to managed instance. So how do we do that? Right? We said that we have our on-prem SQL Server and our managed instance on its private subnet. Right? Then we have an application today pointing to our existing on-premise SQL Server. So how do we do the migration? Right? First of all, we take a backup, right? We can back up to a back file and then move the file to an Azure Blob Storage, or do the backup directly to the Azure Blob Storage, right? And then restore it. That's all we need to move the database from on-premise SQL Server to a managed instance. The final step is just go to the application and redirect the connection string to point it to the managed instance. Really simple. Well, then we know that SQL Server comes with other services, right, that we all use, right? Integration services, analysis services, and reporting services. So managed instance, the only thing it is the relational engine, right? It's not integration service, analysis services, or reporting services. So which are the alternatives that we have to move these services to Azure, right? Uh, in terms of integration services, right, there is Azure Data Factory, right, which allow us to basically move our SSIS packages to Azure, right? So Azure Data Factory is out of the scope of this presentation, but it's something that we can easily use to run our SSIS packages within Azure. So with that, we cover integration services. Analysis services. Okay, if we use analysis services multidimensional model, right, the only option we have is basically provision a virtual machine in Azure, install SQL Server analysis services, and configure it as multidimensional model, right? So that's the way that we can move our on-prem multidimensional cubes to the cloud. But instead, if we use tabular model, right, we can also provision a VM and install analysis services multidimensional tabular, right? But Microsoft also offers a service called Azure Analysis Services, and it's exactly the same concept of managed instance, but for analysis services, right? Is a platform as a service, right? The endpoint is uh, an analysis services in where we can deploy our tabular model very simple, easily, and is also, I mean, this service, Azure Analysis Services, is in the market like probably close to a year, I would say, and it's a quite mature service and widely used, right? And for reporting services, the only option that we have right now is to deploy a VM, install reporting services, and point the database. I mean, we can have the reporting services on this VM, but we can keep the report server and the report server 10DB databases on the managed instance, right? But the service, the reporting services itself, has to be running on a VM. Right. All right, we said that is fully secure and isolated, right? So on a single Azure VNet, right, we have the 3 copies of managed instance, right? The 3 replicas, I would say, and the way to access it is by site-to-site VPN, VNet peering, and there is also this VPN technology provided by Microsoft, which is called Express Route Gateway, right? Which is something that provides a secure connection between your on-premise data center and Azure. Okay, so with this new concept, with this new era of SQL Server as a service, there are some features that are kind of obsolete, right? So let's review it. Always on availability groups, as mentioned, right? It's all built in. We don't need to worry about creating DSGs, right? One of the things that we have to consider is that all the databases that we have in a managed instance are in full recovery model, and that is just to internally manage the HA. Right? So we cannot have databases in simple recovery model. Right? So every option of backup restore is also kind of obsolete because taking backups, differential backups, transactional backups, etc., is not longer needed. Is all built in. Right? Windows authentication. We cannot, let's say, use Windows authentication with our on-prem domain, right? But instead, we can use Azure Active Directory to authenticate with in our managed instance. Right? There are some techniques to and services provided by Microsoft to synchronize our on-prem Active Directory with Azure Active Directory. Right? There are several services more like for the infrastructure people, right? But there are some possibilities, right? um, managed data warehouse, is kind of integrated right now, and policy-based management is also something that we won't be using much in this concept of managing instance. Features that are completely retired, right? Database mirroring, we don't even have the possibility of doing it with managed instance, and this is because, remember I mentioned building HA and geo replication by default, right? Extended store procedure, right? Completely retired, so we can use CLR. Okay, this let's say slide is some sort of in the middle, right? Features considered as post GA. GA was yesterday, but the business critical tier is still not GA, so this is kind of in between. But these are some of the features that are not present in managed instance. That is why I said near 100% compatible with on-premise SQL Server. For example, file stream and file table is not available in managed instance, and there are multiple conversations about how to implement it in managed instance, right? So it's still not decided if they're gonna be uh, uh, developing this to feature file stream, file table, which is actually the same in managed instance, right? All the ones that would like to use this feature, well, there is several. I mean, there is a place in where we can vote, right, for this. We've been in multiple conversations with them, and this is something that is still not clear. But what is 100% confirmed is that it's not available today, right? Cross-instance distributed transactions, right? It's not available. Master data service and data quality services not available. Stretch database, that concept that Microsoft gave us not so long ago to stretch a table from our on-premise server to the cloud, right? This is not available. Not sure if it's going to be in the future, right? So presenting the tiers, right? General purpose and business critical. Well, we have different options of amount of cores that we can provision our managed instance, right? Same for the storage. We're gonna see it from the portal in a minute. This is some sort of um, time slot of this. Maybe I need to update this a little bit more because it was in public preview since I would say like a year ago. It was really difficult to get into the private preview and even to the public preview, right? You have to enter into a list, and then they were approving your Azure subscription to be able to start testing this until yesterday that it was announced as GA. Um, this is not a SQL Server on-prem running on the cloud, right? So there are certain differences, right? So programmatically, right, we will see that if we do select add version, we won't get SQL 2016 or 17, right? The value that we will see is Microsoft SQL Azure, right? And with this, we will be able, as I said before, to take a backup to any SQL Server 2016, 2017 databases and restore it to a managed instance. But we cannot do the other way around. We cannot take a backup of a database hosted on a managed instance and restore it to our on-prem SQL Server, right? So we're going to see some of the differences programmatically, right? How we're going to get these values. Okay, here we have some of the you know, summary of what we just saw. So, but let's go straight to the demo. Okay, so just to start, I have here my Azure portal. Right? We have here the branch SQL Managed instance. So here I have one that is already provisioning, right? But let's start a new one. Right? I won't create it, I won't deploy it, but I will walk through all the process to create it. You will see all the options we have. First of all, we have to specify our subscription and then create a managed instance name. Let's say PaaS Cloud. Check that if it is available. It is. Then we have to provide an admin login name. Right? This is a sysadmin account, right? That then we're going to be using from Management Studio. So let's say admin, and then we have to provide a strong password. I'm doing that right now. Then we have to repeat the password. Right? And when it's confirmed, we need to choose a resource group, a location, right? When we're going to deploy the managed instance, and the virtual network. Right? The virtual network is, I would say, the most complicated part to set up, right? But there are multiple ways on, documents on how to set up the VNet, the let's say isolated VNet for a managed instance. So then we have to choose the tiers. The numbers are in Argentinian pesos, right? Because it's how my account is configured. So we have all these options to work with, right? We can see here general purpose. Right now we don't have the preview, sign, and then we have the business critical still in preview, right? And then we have two families of processors, Gen 4, which was the original, and now Gen 5. I cannot use Gen 5 because I already have one instance on one managed instance in this VNet. Then with this slider, we can select the amount of virtual cores that we want to have, right? And the amount of storage, right? Depending on the storage we select, we are getting the price that we're going to be paying monthly, right? Days of backend retention is free because it's kind of building. And then if we have a contract with a premier contract with Microsoft, and we have SQL Server licenses, right? We can use them here in a managed instance, and we can have a discount of this total price. So once we select the tier, the amount of cores, the storage, and whether we're going to be using our license or not, right? We hit apply, and in a matter of a couple of hours, we're going to have the managed instance already deployed. right? So I won't create it right now. Right? We can have apply, and then we can create it from here. You know that from Azure we can have automation options. We can, generate some sort of template to deploy it later. We can save it, right? We can save it here and then very quickly, provision the VM with all the settings that we just used, right? So let's go to the instance that I already have provided, right? The one that I have here, this is my dashboard, right? We have the overview, the tier, the amount of memory, the cores, etc., etc., etc. All the databases that we have over there, CPU utilization, storage utilization, etc. Right? We can even change or reset the sysadmin password. We have all the logins from here. I mean, the activity log, not the SQL logins. Right? We can access from here. Right? Then in terms of connection strings, right? We have here all the possible connection string. Right? We will see then in action later when we connect from Management Studio. Right? We have the Active Directory, the Azure Active Directory integration from here. We can do the setup here. And if we need to change storage or amount of cores or something, we can, adjust it from here. Right? So it's like any other Azure service. And we have, in terms of security, the advanced threat protection that we can enable it from here, right? So if it is detect something like unusual or something like that, we can be notified right away. All right, this is how we provision the managed instance, right? One is provision, is there, is a service. So how we can connect, right? So I'm going to minimize this, and I have a set of virtual machines in another VNet in Azure, which is paired with the VNet in where I have my managed instance. Right? So how can I connect to my managed instance? First of all, what you see here is this VM, this VM, which is running SQL Server 2017 locally, right? So to connect to my managed instance, right? I go here, I enter the connection string. Let's see if I can submit. Okay, here we go. All right. This is how we enter the connection string. This is the server, the instance name that we provide, and this is the domain that Microsoft gave us as connection string. Right? Again, this is private. We cannot access this from the web. So we get connected, right? And here we are. What we see, let's minimize this one, is a set of databases, security, endpoint, link servers, the SQL Server agent where we can have SQL shops, operators, extended event, right? So everything. But we don't need to worry about patching and other infrastructure things. See here, the version is 12.0.2008, so nothing like on-prem. If we go to the server and we go properties, right, we see Microsoft SQL Server SQL Azure. Let's try to, this is what we see. So let's try to do something with this managed instance. So it's there. So first of all, make this visible, right? I have, let me drop this database. Okay, this is my local SQL Server 2017, my VM SQL 01, right? So in this one, we have multiple databases. One of them is employee case study, right? So let's wait until we drop the one in managed instance. But the idea is to show you how to do a backup directly to a blob storage, right? And then from the managed instance, do the restore, right? Deleting a database or dropping a database in managed instance sometimes takes some time, right? But because remember internally it has the HA DR built in, right? So it may take a little bit longer. Not to worry about. So while we wait for this, we're going to take a backup, right? Backup database, employee case study to my Azure Blob Storage, right? So let's do it. We just have a backup, a normal backup in an on-prem server, right? Then we see that the database is gone from my managed instance. So let's switch to another session. And what we have here on my managed instance, see down here, right? I will restore, I have to change the file name, right? The database that I just made the backup from on-prem, I will restore it to my managed instance. So after restoring it, right, we're going to see it available here. So that's simple, right? Backup, restore. While we wait for the restore to complete, let's see how we can do link servers, right? I will change the connection to managed instance. And what I will do here is, first of all, I will drop the link server, which is already created, right? Which is pointing to a VM in Azure, right? So what I'm doing here is dropping and recreating a link server. We can do it from here, right? We can go to server object, link servers, and create it from here. You see here it is created, right? So I just recreate the link server, right? And then what do we do? Just selecting from the managed instance. We are on the managed instance, accessing a table that is hosted on an on-prem SQL server, right? So simple, right? This is the link server that we all know and use every day. Go back to the restore. It just finished. We go to the managed instance. We refresh, and the database is there, employee case study, right? So this is managed instance, right? All our SQL stuff is going to work with no problem, almost minimal changes if we have to, if we don't use the features that are not still available, then our code will be 100% compatible, right? And this is the kind of the final summary, right? So if you want to, take a picture to take with you, this is, all the flavors that we have in Azure for SQL, right? Azure SQL DB, the singleton, with the possibility of using elastic pool, right? And manage instance, right? Remember this rule: if you are thinking on creating a brand new application, consider Azure SQL DB as an option, right? And if you want to move your existing databases application to the cloud, then consider managed instance, right? I think we are running out of time. I had a few other slides that basically I'm going to go through them very quickly, right? Is that the new role for the DBAs, right? With all this new automatic tuning, and we don't have to take care of backups or patchings or you know, high availability. What do the DBAs will do, right? So today we have all this in to take care of, right? So with Azure, right? We don't have to worry about hardware backups, patching, DR. So, you know, one of the questions that I get quite often is, okay, we don't need to do performance tuning anymore. We have automatic tuning. We don't need to take care of backup. So what do we do, the DBAs? Is something that we won't be doing anymore? And my answer is no, right? We, the DBAs, we have to evolve as the platform is doing, right? SQL Server, the last number of years, is releasing version more often with a ton of features. Just to not go so far, this week Microsoft announced SQL Server 2019, right? And if you ask to raise a hand, some of us are still using one of two missing instances of 2008 R2, 2012, right? So we as DBA, we have to evolve, consider the cloud, right? Because, you know, we can focus on the growth and you know, the business itself, right? So that is my presentation. Thank you so much for your time. This is my contact information, so feel free to reach me for anything related to this or anything else. So if there are questions, Jason, I'm happy
there
to
are
answer
a few questions. A couple of them look like you answered throughout. Being that we are a little bit over, I think what's best is I'm going to actually just download these questions and I'll send them over to you. There's a few questions regarding SSRS and Azure machines and availability groups. So I'll get those over to you.
Okay.
And then you can reach out to the attendees and answer them directly.
Perfect. That will be great.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending today. This has been a great session. I've been wanting to dig into this topic myself and get a little bit more background on it, so this is great to see. We will have another presentation again in 2 weeks. And again, if anyone is interested in presenting, reach out to me or just go out to our cloud website, cloud virtual group website, and fill out the form, and I'll get you scheduled. And again, thank you everyone, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye everyone.